Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So we are continuing our reading of Niccolo Machiavelli's The Prince and Other Writings. We had really dug into the life of this guy named Castruccio Castracani, and he was from Lucca. He was quite a conqueror, and Machiavelli seems to really like his ability, virtue, and prowess in terms of politics and military, situations. So he's still talking about that guy, okay? So let's begin. Bismillah. Thus Castruccio, judging from what we have shown, was a rare man not only in the context of his own era, but in that of many eras that had come before him. As for his person, he was taller than average, and very slim, was proportioned to the others, and he was gracious in his bearing, and received men with such humanity that no one ever spoke with him who went away discontent. Now that's a skill. His hair was reddish, and he wore it cut above the ears, and always and at all times, even when it rained or snowed, he went bareheaded. Oh. He was gracious to his friends, terrible to his enemies, just with his subjects, deceitful with outsiders. When he could win by fraud, he never sought to win by force. For he used to say that the victory, not the manner of the victory, would bring you glory. Ooh, that's spicy. Now, war is deception is something that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, and fraud is a form of deception. Okay, so the trickery that comes. So, fraud, force. No one was ever bolder about entering into dangers, or more wary in getting out of them. And he used to say that men should try everything, and not be frightened of anything, and that God loves strong men because one sees that he always punishes the powerless by means of the powerful. Oh snap. Punishes the powerless by means of the powerful. He was also marvelous with retorts and stinging taunts. So he was witty, essentially. Witty. Knew how to fling it back. Both sharp and urbane. And, as he did not spare anyone when speaking in this style, so he did not get angry when they did not spare him. So if you dish it out, you gotta be able to take it. Hence, it is recorded that he made many sharp remarks, and that he listened to many with patience. Ooh. That is a hard skill to have, because there's tons of people who are, oh my goodness, so lippy. I know one influencer. I know we all hate the word influencer, but he goes hard on anyone who mildly disagrees with him. He loves to shame, ridicule, mock, degrade, get real vulgar, real fast, go 0 to 100 on others, but he spirals, berserks out when he gets the mildest of trolling done on him. I always found that odd, when people love to dish it, but they're not prepared for when it springboards back like a boomerang to the eye. When he had bought a partridge for a ducat, and a friend reproved him, Castruccio said, "You would not have paid more than a soldo for it." And when his friend answered that he was right, Castruccio replied, "A ducat is worth much less to me." Once, when he had a flatterer in his presence, he spit on him out of scorn. And the flatterer said, "To catch a little fish, fishermen let themselves get completely soaked in the sea. I shall certainly let myself get wet with a little spit in order to land a whale." Oh, that's interesting. Castruccio did not merely hear this patiently, but rewarded him for it. I remember a sheikh on Scholarly Subtitles channel, Ruhaili, I think is his. He said, I think it was him. I remember his face, but I don't remember the name exactly. He said he was taught. Sorry, I can't remember if it was Imam Ahmed or somebody, a very popular Islamic figure, was talking. They got into an argument. Someone spit on him, and he said, to the believers, it's pure. Because spit is not an impure thing. Oh, I'm totally butchering it. I saved it on a playlist. But he got spit on, essentially. And he's like, it's okay because spit is not impure. You know? And he just took it like that. Like, he was so pious. You know? Because someone spit on me, you know. I think in America, spitting on someone is a form of assault. You can't actually get charged for that, if I recall. Yeah, so I wouldn't like that. My grandpa used to always say, I'm so mad I could spit. So, for his generation, spitting is like a huge insult. And then you have today's generation has the Hawk Tuah girl, spit on that thing. And she gets to be famous because she talks about spitting on people's genitals for oral relations. So, you know, how our society has degraded. When someone spoke ill of him because he lived in too much splendor, Castruccio said, if this were a vice, there would be no such splendid banquets on the feast days of our saints. Ooh, that's a spicy one. When he was walking down a street and saw a young man who was coming out of the house of a whore and was completely red-faced because he had been seen by Castruccio, he said to him, do not be ashamed when you come out of here, but when you go in. Oh, that's a line. Bars. When you go in, feel ashamed, not when you come out. See, liberal women are told the walk of shame. They really embrace, like, just being completely dug out by random men. But this quote kind of flips it, doesn't it? You should feel the shame at the beginning. When a friend gave him a knot to untie that was very carefully entwined, he said, you fool, do you think I want to untie something which, when it is tied, gives me so much trouble? When Castruccio said to one who professed to be a philosopher, oh no, what did he say? You are all like dogs that always hang around whoever will give them the best food. The man replied, on the contrary, we are doctors who go to the houses of those who have the greatest need for us. Ooh, you know what's really funny about this one? Gives them the best food. I consider myself a philosopher since I was very young. I did hang out with my friends whose moms would feed me because we were poor. And, you know, I had to eat at a lot of other people's houses. And I knew which houses had the best food. My friend Veronica, her mom was from Mexico. There she was born in Mexico. Veronica too. But her mom would make homemade food. And I loved eating there. The house was just great salsas, homemade tortillas. And they always shared food with me. And it was never a problem. Then my friend Danielle, her grandma would make like biscuits, mashed potatoes and gravy, fried chicken, country Kentuckian style food, you know. And I would ask to eat over there, not all the time because her grandma was kind of mean, and her grandpa was like super mean. He was a semi-truck driver, and so I would eat over there sometimes, but never when he was there because he's so mean. And then my dearest friend, I'm still friends with today, she's a chef. She went to culinary art school. But her mom didn't go to culinary art school, but she was like, you know, Gordon Ramsay ain't got nothing on her. She's old-fashioned Americana cooking. everything from scratch, pickles, pickling, jams, canning stuff, you name it. She was just on the ball, and she would, feed you. Their fridge was always full, and they were always ready to share their bounty. They were Mormons, and they were not stingy in the slightest. I remember countless times where I ate over at their house. They had caramel popcorn. They always had something wonderful to share, whether it was a sweet treat, on the regular dinner, cereal even. I was always thankful for them. So this is a very interesting insight to philosophers. But yeah, I do find it unique that the response the philosopher gives is who has the greatest need for us. Because some people overlook people who can have deep conversations. When you live in a shallow world where everything is fast and YouTube shorts and Instagram reels, people don't really like to have the deeper conversations around introspection. I think that'll change in the future because I think the mind naturally craves authenticity and long-form content, So there will be the time where people want to have long-form conversations and not just constantly sit with a therapist. Think about the shamans. They're not philosophers. But if you think about how humans used to sit around the fire, and you would go to your elders, and those old people would just be talking, and you're a young buck, and you're just going over there listening to old people talk. There's something to that in our DNA, I feel, and who we are as a species. We've lost that because we're all so busy trying to survive, tackle inflation, and whatnot. But when you have a philosopher friend who is an actual philosopher, not just the kind who memorize every other philosopher's work, but never have any, they're not philosophers themselves, right? There's people who study philosophers, and then there's philosophers who are. And there's a lot of Muslims who hate philosophers, but without a doubt there was Muslim philosophers. Because when you look at a wise imam, they're not necessarily, they're lovers of wisdoms too, and they know how to have deep spiritual conversations, and conversations that are very introspective and inquisitive and have a sort of dialectic to them, and this can help people more than some Valium pill or whatever. So a lot of surface level people who just want you to memorize dogma and they don't want you to think too much hate philosophers. If you look up the statistic of how many lawyers study philosophy, you'll be like, oh wow, that's quite interesting. Because a lot of philosophy majors, they later go into law because you learn lines of questioning and how to go deeper. So it is fascinating to look at that. When he was going from Pisa to Livorno by water, and a dangerous storm came up that frightened him greatly, he was rebuked for cowardice by some in his entourage, who said that he himself was not afraid of anything. In reply, Castruccio said that he did not wonder at it, because each man values his life for what it is worth. You get it? He's like, I'm not afraid of anything. Well, then your life ain't worth anything. Being asked by someone what he needed to do to gain esteem for himself, Castruccio said, when you go to a banquet, take care that one block of wood is not sitting on another. When someone was boasting of having read many things, Castruccio said, it would be better to boast of having remembered them. Oh, that's a good point, isn't it? When someone was boasting that, though he drank a great deal, he did not get drunk, Castruccio said, an ox does the very same thing. This guy's hilarious. He's like a warrior with a great sense of humor, who's witty. That's great. I like that. Ain't that funny? Castruccio had a young woman with whom he was on intimate terms, being blamed for this by a friend who said that it was especially bad for him to let himself be had by a woman. "You are wrong," said Castruccio. "I had her, not she me." Also, when someone blamed him for eating fancy foods, he said, "You would not spend as much as I do on them." And when the man said that Castruccio spoke the truth, Castruccio added, "Then you are more miserly than I am gluttonous." Look at that. Once he was invited to support Taddeo Bernardi of Lucca, a very rich and extravagant man. And after he arrived at the house, Taddeo showed him a room entirely decorated with tapestries, with a floor made of precious stones of various colors, which were arranged in diverse patterns, representing flowers, leafy branches, and similar greenery. Castruccio, having gathered a great deal of saliva in his mouth, spat it all in Taddeo's face. What? When the latter got angry, Castruccio said, "I did not know where to spit so as to offend you less." What? Okay, because if he spits on that fancy floor, because, you're not supposed to spit inside. Go ahead and spit off onto the side where no one walks. Because it's so gross when you're pushing the stroller and you see a loogie there, like right where the wheels are, and you can go off into the grass. But because this is the floor, so the floor is to be treaded on, and if you spit on a very fancy floor, then you shouldn't spit inside anyways. But you kind of get the point in a weird way, don't you? So the floor is more prettier than the guy's face, It's more extravagant than the guy's face. This guy, man. No wonder why Machiavelli likes him. Good sense of humor, huh? Asked how Caesar died, he said, "May God grant that I might die like him." Ooh, ouch. You mean shanked over and over? 20 times? Ouch. One night at the home of one of his gentlemen, where a large number of ladies had been invited to a party, he was dancing and enjoying himself more than was fitting for one of his station. Upon being reproved for it by a friend, he said, "He who is considered wise by day will never be considered foolish by night." When a man came to ask him a favor, and Castruccio pretended not to hear, the man threw himself on his knees on the ground before him. When Castruccio reproved him for doing so, he said, "You are the reason for it, since you have ears in your feet." As a result, he got double the favor he was asking for. He used to say that the road to hell was easy, since one went downhill, and with one eyes closed. It's downhill. Oh, that's it. I thought it was gonna say something like, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's easy to go down to the gates of hell, but it's harder to climb up." That one, you get the reference of, it's an uphill battle to pull yourself out of that lower, baser nature. Here, he's giving us a new way of looking at it. You don't even need to have your eyes open to go downhill. It's easy. But if you're climbing up to get out of that, you need to watch everything you grasp on. Quite literally. That's an interesting line. When someone asked him a favor with a great many superfluous words, Castruccio said to him, "When you want something more from me, send someone else." When the same sort of man had bored him with a long oration, and had said to him at the end, "I have perhaps tired you by speaking too long." He said, "You have not, for I have not heard a thing you have said." Oh, that's mean. "Perhaps, I have bored you, but I do declare, like, actually, you have not. I have not heard a thing you have said." He used to say He used to say one who had been a beautiful boy and was afterwards a handsome man, that he caused too much harm, because before he stole husbands from their wives, and now he was taking wives from their husbands. What? Ew. To an envious man who was laughing, he said, "Are you laughing because you are faring well, or because another is faring badly?" Ooh. When he was still under the tutelage of Messer Francesco Guinigi, one of his peers said to him, "What do you want me to give you for you to let me slap your face?" What kind of question is that? You know what I mean? Like, that's a horrible question. He replied, "Elements." This guy's funny. That's funny. Having had a citizen of Lucca killed, who had been the cause of his greatness, and being told that he had not done wrong in killing one of his old friends, he replied that they were deceiving themselves, for he had killed a new enemy. Ooh. Castruccio used to praise greatly those men who chose wives and then did not marry them, and likewise those who wanted to travel by sea and then did not do so. Huh. Praise greatly. You chose a woman and then you didn't marry her? That's kind of mean. She's going to get mad. Because maybe it brings your ego down, I guess. Maybe the sea is perilous. You don't want to go in there. He used to say he marveled at men who, when they buy a vase of earthenware or glass, sound it first to see if it rings true, but then, when they were taking a wife, were content only to see her. It rings true. So, maybe he's talking about not having intercourse to see if she's really a true virgin or not. Something. It's an interesting one. When someone asked him, or if she's good in bed, I don't know, just as he was about to die, how he wanted to be buried, he replied, "With my face downward, since I know that when I die this city will turn upside down." Upon being asked if, in order to save his soul, he ever thought to become a friar, he replied that he had not, because it seemed strange to him that Brother Lazarus should go to paradise and Ugo, it's a hard name, Ugocione della Fagiuola to hell. I don't know who that is. Being asked how much it was good to eat if one wanted to stay healthy, he replied, "If a man is rich, when he is hungry. If a man is poor, when he can." Oh. When you're hungry, and then if you're poor, when you can. So, your stomach tells you when you have money when you should eat. But if you're poor, you don't have that luxury. You take up the opportunity when you can. I see. Seeing one of his gentlemen having his clothes laced up by one of his servants, he said, "I hope to God that you will have him feed you too." The pampering, you know. Seeing that a man had written on his house in Latin that God should guard it from the wicked, he said he himself should not go in there. That is funny. Like, hey God, you don't protect me, but you know, you just you shouldn't go in there. That's like a terrible insult. Walking down a street where there was a little house with a large door, he said that the house will run away through that door. Being given to understand that a foreigner had corrupted a young boy, he said he must be from Perugia. When he asked which town was famous for cheaters and grafters, he was answered Lucca, where everybody was one by nature, except for Bontura. When he was arguing with an ambassador of the King of Naples over the property belonging to exiles, he began to get rather angry. The ambassador said to him, "So you have no fear of the king?" Castruccio replied, "This king of yours, is he good or bad?" And when the ambassador replied that he was good, Castruccio retorted, "Why then do you want me to be afraid of good men?" I love witticisms. Many other things said by him could be recounted, in all of which one would see his wit and his gravity, but let these suffice as testimony to his great qualities. He lived 44 years, and was princely, whether his fortune was good or bad. And there are a great many memorials to his good fortune. So he also wished that there should be some to his bad fortune. Hence, the manacles with which he had been shackled in prison can still be seen today hung up in the tower of his home, where they were put by him so that they would always bear witness to his adversity, and because, while living, he was not inferior either to Philip of Macedonia, the father of Alexander, nor to Scipio of Rome. He died at the same age as both of them, and without doubt he would have surpassed both if, in exchange for Lucca, he had Macedonia or Rome as his native land. Look at that. That's quite fascinating, isn't it? I think I really enjoyed that, because I have not heard of him in school. I mean, American education ain't that great. We don't rank very high. But imagine if you were to learn that kind of a story. It would have been great. Okay, now, this is a section, a letter from Niccolo Machiavelli to Francesco Vettori, to the magnificent Florentine ambassador, to the Supreme Pontiff and his benefactor, Francesco Vettori, in Rome. Magnificent ambassador. Divine graces were never late. I say this because it appeared to me that I had lost, no, rather strayed away from, your favor, since you had gone so long without writing to me, and I was uncertain what the reason for this could be, and I paid little attention to all the reasons that came to mind, except for this. I feared you had stopped writing to me because someone had written to you that I had not been a good guardian of your letters. I knew that, except for Filippo and Paolo, no one has seen them, because of anything I have done. I found it your favor again, thanks to your last letter of the 23rd of the past month, in which I am very content to see, and how orderly a manner, and how calmly you are carrying out your public duties. So an orderly manner, and how calm you carry out your duties. So how you carry out your duties. And I encourage you to continue thus, because he who gives up his own interest for the interest of others, I know, loses his own profit and gets no thanks from others. Wow. That's a good line. So if you give up your own interest for others, it's not really going to benefit you. You're going to lose everything. So it seems like there's a balance there. And since fortune wants to do everything, she wants us to let her act, to remain quiet and not to give her trouble, and to wait for the time when she will let men do something. And then it will be good for you to work harder and watch over things more closely, and for me to leave my farm and say, here I am, if you want to bestow equal favors on you. I cannot therefore tell you in this letter about anything other than about what my life is like. And if you think it should be exchanged for yours, I'll be happy to change it. Ooh, exchanged for yours. He's on a farm. I am living on my farm, and since my recent misfortunes happened, I have not spent 20 days in Florence. If you add them all together, I have up to now been snaring thrushes with my own hands. Arising before daybreak, I would prepare the bird lime and go out with a bundle of cages on my back, so that I looked like Geta when he had returned from the port with Amphitron's books. I would catch at least 2, at most 6 thrushes, and so I passed all of September. So he's out there, not only he's a well-lettered, well-read individual, he also didn't shy away from manual labor. Then, this pastime, although contemptible and alien to me, gave out to my displeasure. Now I will tell you how my life is. I get up in the morning with the sun, and go to a grove I am having cut down, where I stay for 2 hours to review the work of the previous day, and to pass time with the woodcutters, who always have some argument on hand, either among themselves or with the neighbors. And about this grove, I could tell you 1,000 wonderful things that have happened to me, both in connection with Frosino da Panzano and with others who wanted some of this wood. And Frosino in particular sent for a certain number of loads of wood, without telling me anything, and at payment he wanted to hold back 10 lire from me, which he says he should have from me 4 years ago, when he beat me at Criccia in Antonio Guicciardini's house. I began to raise hell. I wanted to accuse the carter who had come for the wood of being a thief. But finally, Machiavelli got in between us and made us make peace. Battista Guicciardini, Filippo Ginori, Tommaso del Bene, and certain other citizens. Each took a load of it from me when that north wind was blowing. I made promises to all of them, and I sent a load to Tommaso, which turned up in Florence, half its size, because he, his wife, his servants, and his children piled it up so that they looked like Gabura when he cudgels an ox with his boys on Thursdays. As a result, seeing who was profiting here, I told the others that I had no more wood, and all of them got really angry about it, and especially Battista, who counts this along with his other misfortunes in Prato. So selling wood. So he's got a grove, chopping down wood, selling grove. That's lumber, being a lumberjack, being a tree cutter, that's not easy work. Quite heavy, swinging that axe. They didn't have chainsaws back in that day, Intense. So we'll pause here. I wonder how this letter is gonna go, but this whole section I just want to revisit about Castruccio. It's really unique because you learn a lot from it. And we know that Machiavelli has a lot of emphasis on prowess and virtue in rulers. Okay? Ability, virtue, all of that. We learn a lot about the history of Italy, really. The Florentines, the Venetians, all these different city-states before they became united, Pisa, Milan, it's intense, really intense. And so I hope that you have learned something and enjoyed learning about that new figure who not many of us get to learn about. So by Machiavelli highlighting Castruccio, we begin to see his ability to analyze the actions of others. And in his previous sections, we've learned quite a lot on auxiliaries, how a ruler should behave, how you should treat the people, how you should deal with politicians, all that. It's been fascinating. So the new section that we're getting into, or this letter, we're going to see how he writes to others. Okay? So stay tuned. If you need to catch up, go back to the other videos. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Okay? And remember, Machiavelli is a political philosopher, just to be clear. And if you like political science, I think Machiavelli is essential to read. So keep that in mind, okay? There's a reason why he's mentioned so much, but a lot of people mention him as some type of boogeyman, but they haven't really read anything from him, you know? So, and when you read the book, you see how so many people make up quotes that are not really real from him, you know, all that. Yeah. Please join my blog, support the channel. I have lots of content on there that you will enjoy, inshallah. It's www.subscribestar.com/Milahan Archive. Hope to see you there.